I can't believe that this is the last episode of 2020, and I am looking forward to bringing to you a few ways that you can be intentional about the new year. Now, I know you probably do not want to worry about making plans or any New Year's resolutions, but these 5 steps will be able to help you approach the new year in a bigger and more meaningful way. Welcome to the Planners on Purpose podcast. The Planners on Purpose podcast is a resource that reminds you as an event planner to live your life on purpose. And I'm Naomi Tucker, your host, and I'm excited that you're here. If you've listened to this podcast before, I thank you so much for coming back again. And for those of you that are new, I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for being here as well. I encourage everyone, if you don't mind, to go ahead and share this podcast, especially if it's something that you enjoy. I would love to be able to expand my reach. So if you could help me out on that and share this right now, take the moment to share it, it would be great. And if you share it, use the hashtag Planners on Purpose, or just tag me so that I can personally thank you for sharing. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet to the podcast, I encourage you to do so. I don't want you to miss out on anything that comes out or any updates that I might have to share. Now, this podcast is for really an event planner that juggles work and life and spouse and partner and friends and family. I mean, you're juggling everything. This podcast is really for you. It's designed to empower you with the tips and tools and encouragement for you to make your next best step. And today, I'm going to give you 5 ways to be intentional about the new year. Now, I know in this climate, it might be hard for you to think about the new year, especially with so much uncertainty, right? So perhaps you're just not one for New Year's resolutions, or maybe you never meet the commitments that you set out to do, or maybe you just don't want to get too pumped up. I've heard some people say that. I don't want to get pumped up for 2021, only to be let down because things are still so not right. Believe me, I get it. But I also know that being an event planner that's all about her purpose is taking a look back into the telescope, or taking a look into the telescope, even if it's cloudy outside. And it's about just being intentional about the plans that you have set for your life, or that you would want to have set for your life. So I absolutely love the word intentional. And for those of you that are on my Facebook group, you are able to see that my word of the month was intentional. And that's because I really feel like having intention can direct your steps. It lets you know where you're going, and it makes your journey a little easier. So I understand it's been a really tough year for a lot of us. For many of us, our industry has been crippled. It was stopped in its tracks. And after probably starting the year with a bang, and so amazingly, we had to come to a screeching halt. And since then, we've been grasping to be able to take hold and take root of these virtual meetings, and really try to provide an alternative solution to face-to-face. And some of that is going well, but it's just not the same, right? So what we need to do, or what we should think about, is just think about being more intentional about the new year, so that we can have a better footing no matter how things may shake in 2021. We know it's probably not going to start out amazingly, right? But at least if we know how our reaction will be to any of these, anything that might happen, at least we will feel a little bit better as we're going through it. And that's the whole point. So let's get into it. I am going to give you 5 ways on being intentional about the new year. Now grab a pen if you need to and write these down as I'm talking about them. All right, so my first thing that I would like for you to do is to reflect. Now, reflecting is another way to recall everything that's happening in your world. Now, it's valuable for you to do this because many times we're going through things and we don't really recognize what we're going through because we're suppressing it all because either we're busy or we have other things to do and we don't have to look at it in the face. You know what I mean? It's like when you're busy, if something happens to you, you just say, I'll just go ahead and brush that off to the side, and you keep on trekking. But I can't tell you how many times I've ignored like a pretty obvious thing because of either how busy I've been or other things take priority over that, like that dentist appointment that I needed to make or pushing back other things that I have going on. Now that might be pretty simple, but there are bigger items that we just put on the back burner. So the idea about reflection is to get everything out on the table, get it out front and center, and take a nice healthy look at it. Now this can be in the form of journaling. You can do this. I have a journal that I like to write in and I like to really brainstorm in all of the time. So you can do this in a journal. You can get a piece of paper. Some people love to do Post-it note parties. I know I love to do that too. But whatever it is that you do to be able to record these things, I would suggest that you do it when you're going through this reflection stage. Now, it doesn't always have to happen at the end of the year like we're doing here, but doing the action or the activity of reflection is very important, and you can do it any time. I do it sometimes when I feel a little overwhelmed, when I have a lot on my plate and I'm trying to sort things out. Doing some reflection is really good for you to do. Now, you can make a habit out of it and do reflecting probably daily basis or maybe on a weekly basis. And that way you're continually reflecting and continually adjusting as you go. That would be ideal. But sometimes many people don't do that on a regular basis, and let's say once a year they take the old journal out and do some really hefty self-reflection. And so that's what we're doing right now. So the first step again is to reflect, write it all down, get everything out on the table on what's happening in your world, what do you have going on, and what's just on your mind. Okay. The next step is evaluating on what you reflect. So you've put everything on a paper and now you're evaluating it all. You're laying it on the table, you write it all down. Now when you're doing that, I suggest you put either a plus sign or a minus sign on every item that you do. So that way when you're reflecting on the item, you're also understanding, okay, well, why is it in my world? What do I have to do to support this? How long do I need to support this or do this? Really evaluate each item on what it is you have to do, why you have to do it. And if it's something that needs to stay in your life that you need to handle, put a plus. And if not, put a minus. It's as simple as that. Now, evaluating should really align to our priorities. Like, what are the main things you want in your life right now? Like, what's priority? And make sure that when you're looking at it, it's not some things that you're doing because you're obligated to do. And if you are, who are you obligated to do those things by and why? These are questions that you want to ask yourself, because as you try to take these things either off your plate or you don't want to go in that direction anymore, you at least know who you need to talk to, or you kind of know what the foundation is of that item that you have on your list. Now, this can bring up a lot of things for many people, this evaluation area. Many times you may find you have to shift things in your life to support the items that you put a plus sign by. And that's okay, because that's the reason why we're going through this exercise. And other times you might see that there are things coming off your plate that you need to have a conversation with a couple people to make sure that they're aware that you're taking it off your plate. And that is okay as well. This is also what I call resetting, and it is the third way for you to be more intentional about your new year. When you go through the process of resetting, it's going to be huge for you. I can't even tell you how huge this is, because it's literally you resetting what your expectations are for yourself, for your life, and it is just a tremendous next step for you. Now, you can have the conversations that you need to have during the resetting phase. You put the tools in place that you need to in order to set yourself up for success in the areas that you are keeping things off your plate, or in the areas that you are keeping on your plate. Many times we need systems and tools and set forth habits in order to ensure that those things stay on your plate and then they can be managed appropriately. Also, the conversations that you need to have in the resetting phase, you need to put down, who am I having the conversation with? Why am I having it? At what point do I need to have this conversation? And what am I going to say? Those are some things you want to have outlined for yourself in this resetting phase. And it could be something as simple as, I don't want to do the financial reports anymore. And perhaps there's someone else that can do those reports, that get joy from those reports. So I'm going to have a conversation with my manager and let her know that I would like to see if these can be moved on to someone else. Or perhaps they can be moved on to someone else because there's someone on my team that really enjoys reports. So these are some things that you would need to have those conversations around. And it's not always business conversations. It also can be those responsibilities that you have at home. Perhaps you're doing virtual schooling, or perhaps both you and your spouse are in a home together now that everyone's working from home, and maybe it's getting too noisy, or maybe he doesn't leave his door closed. Whatever it is, maybe that's a conversation you need to have, especially if it's messing up your reality, right? So have those conversations. We just need to make sure that when we have those conversations, we do it correctly, we do it intently. And if there's any conversations that we have that we need to say no, or we need to make different decisions, I know it can be tough to have those conversations, but it is a necessary thing to do. Okay, like I said, resetting is pretty huge, very huge. So I also want to go on to the number 4. So the number 4 item is to make a plan. Okay, so here's a quote. I love this quote, and you all have probably already heard this quote at some point in time. It says, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Have you ever heard of that particular quote? It's a great quote, but it's so true. It's, if you fail to plan, you are literally deciding to plan to fail. Or you're just deciding, hey, I'm just going to go through life and just go where the wind blows. And I don't think that that's the way we want to go. Not in these times, not in these times. And I would just even say not really ever. We want to be able to have a plan or some direction about where things are going. So I just think that it can be tough to think about planning at the new year, but it also is a necessary thing. And I would just encourage you to make sure that you're making this plan and going through all of these steps. So in step 4, it's all about activating your plan of action, and that keeps your priorities in mind, right? So you're activating your plan of action, and you're making sure those priorities are front and center. So for me, The resetting stage is huge, but I also like to put dates on when things occur and when I'll have those conversations like I mentioned. So when you're looking at making your plan, you're going through and ensuring that everything has a date, everything has a time, everything has an end point, so that you are able to say, I am either taking action on this, or this is a plan that I need to do for this item. And perhaps that item doesn't need to have a plan. Maybe it's just something like, be loving. And if you need to be a loving person, maybe you just kind of say, say one loving thing a day, or something like that. But really, everything should have a date behind it. It should be specific. Make sure you can visualize what that success is and write down what that success looks like and what that purpose looks like for you. And that will be able to help you a little bit with your plans. Now, if you're going through this episode with me and you would like to share your plans with me, I would love to see them. But let me know what your top 3 areas of focus are for the year. Tag me in your posts so that I can see how you're putting your plans out there, okay? I would love to be able to see what your plans are. So that is number 4. Number 4 way of being intentional about the new year is making your plan. And then the last way to be intentional about the new year is to revisit. Now, I want you to revisit this plan often. Now, you can do it quarterly, you can do it monthly, you can do it daily, but make sure this plan is on top of your mind. Like I mentioned, and I can't mention it, I can mention it over and over again, is that we can be swayed by all the busyness in life. And let's say if the events come back, we're going to be pretty busy. We need to make sure that our plans are at the top of our minds, and what we want for ourselves is at the top of our minds, so that we're not distracted and we're not pulled in different directions and be carried off to do somebody else's plan when we really need to focus on what we want for ourselves. So making sure that you're revisiting your plan, put that in your calendar if you would like to, especially your digital calendar, whatever calendar you use. Make sure quarterly you revisit your plans that you had set for yourself, or perhaps daily you want to do it. But have a set cadence about revisiting these plans so that you can know that you're on track. It's all about just ensuring that you're on track. So there you have it. There's 5 ways that I want you to take in order for you to be intentional about the new year. And the first one's to reflect. Then I want you to reevaluate. I want you to reset, make a plan, so activate that plan, and revisit. Okay? So if you follow these steps, you'll be closer to fulfilling your dreams and just being in your purpose in life one day at a time. And yeah, I think that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please leave a comment or give me a rating. For those of you that are coming to book club on Wednesday, I cannot wait to see you. We'll be discussing Amy Cuddy's book, Presence, and that will be on Facebook or YouTube at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, December 30th. So we'll be excited to see all of you that would like to join. And finally, if you haven't joined the Facebook community, I encourage you to come on over. You'll be glad that you did. That's all I have. I wish you all the best for the remainder of the year, and cheers to the new year. I will see you in 2021. Cheers.